Beautiful people across the globe, we just want to welcome you to another edition of DAKICKBACK, The Kickback, with Sharika, Sabrina, and Evie.
Hi, y'all. Happy second week of September. Why does it feel like the second week and it's definitely only the first?
I think, probably because we started September on a Friday. So last week,
Friday.
So you all.
I love a Friday, and I love when Memorial Day falls like right at the beginning, like it did the month. It just feels like such a nice way to start with a short week, a long weekend and a short week. Hello? I don't care how much you love your job. There's something about having your own time. It's like, perfect. So I'm feeling very, very excited to be in September. I know last week I said my song was September, which still those vibes because this weekend is going to really kick everything off. So I'm partying with Sharika for her birthday on Friday. And then we have another little secret celebration the next day. And then that Sunday, I'm in Washington, D.C. to celebrate somebody like dedicating their life, not only to like this particular church, but like to the Lord in front of believers and witnesses. So it's going to be all good. And I have the perfect song for myself now. I live in Florida, so I don't have my perfect fall weather, which I miss. Like my life is almost perfect, but if I could just have fall again, Sharika, don't you miss it? Like
I do. I do.
The crisp little breeze in the air, the feeling of like holidays, my favorite time of year between Thanksgiving and Christmas. That's like the only thing that's missing. But still, I'm going to say my temp is like a 65 because this time of year, that's what I like. I like a 65. I like to start to wear my little boots, and I like the Friday night football games at the high school. Golly. But my song is Party in the USA because I have a lot of partying going on this weekend, and I'm very, very excited about it. Sharika. Oh, I need to say one more thing. Shout out to my mom. Today is her birthday. Happy birthday, Mommy. I love you. You're my girl. Keep living it up. Sharika, how are you feeling?
I feel good, because as you were talking about, last week we told y'all we had the hurricane. So I was closed. Our job was closed for 2 days. And then we had already had an employee appreciation day scheduled for Friday. We were closed Monday for Labor Day. And then I took the rest of the week off for my birthday. So last week I went to the office twice. This week I'm off. So I'm just in vacation vibes, lazy vibes, because this is not one of those vacations where I'm out and about. I'm literally been at home, just chilling, had a little doctor's appointment one day. But other than that, I've been in the house and thoroughly enjoying my own company and just relaxing. So it's been lovely. But the weekend is coming and I'm ready to celebrate all the things. So I'm excited. I'm really excited because, I'll be seeing my husband. I mean, he's been home, but y'all know he's an emergency disaster. So he's been busy these past few, week and a half. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, seeing friends and celebrating another year of life. I told y'all last week I was down about this year, but you know what? I'm going to be positive and I'm going to make it a great year to the best of my ability.
That's right, Sharika. Do you have a highlight from this past year?
Oh, do I have a highlight from this past year? That's so terrible because I'm always looking forward. And when I think about birthdays or whatever, I'm like looking at what I want to do or what's coming up. Like I never think about, well, how was this past year? But you know what? When it comes to anniversaries, like me and my husband's anniversary, I look back. I don't look forward. I'd be like, how was the past year? So that's very interesting that you asked me that question. And I'm like, what happened? What did happen this year? I don't know if I've had a highlight because this was a rough year, to be very honest. But
listen, keep it real, friend.
This was a tough year. But I will say the thing that's like ringing in my mind is the Taylor Swift concert. That's what
that's great.
That's the thing that's like, I don't know why. That's like the only thing I can think of. I'm
Shout
sure
out to our friend Tanya for giving you that gift.
I know. Yeah. So I'm sure there's other things that happened this year that were great, but that's the thing that's sticking out in my mind is Taylor Swift and how, I feel like years from now, I'm going to talk about 20 summer, summer or 2023 when I went to the two major concerts of the year, you know, Taylor and Beyonce. They've both been killing it this year, and I will say was at both of them. So that's exciting.
Exactly. And speaking of Taylor Swift, she is premiering the concert and probably some highlights and maybe documentary style. I haven't looked very much into it of this tour because I know a lot of people couldn't get tickets. So it's going to be in certain select theaters and evidently is slated to make 160 million opening weekend. I already told Sharika I will not be going to the theater, but when it starts streaming, I will take a gander. I love her music. She has all the bops. Like I told y'all, if I'm on a 13-hour road trip, that's who I'm listening to. The time will fly. I will know every song, every lyric. It's just a happy little boppy time. So
I agree. I'm not going to the theater, but I didn't even know it until we were talking about it the other day. But yeah, I wouldn't be going to the theater, but hey, I don't mind doing a Taylor party and watching this when it finally goes to some whatever streaming network it goes to after the
exactly. I'm not a club girly, but I wish there were like theme clubs and theme nights because I would definitely go in a space where they're just going to play like Taylor Swift music or it's just going to be 80s music and I would totally like get my life if it was non-smoking because I really can't with the smoke. But I really cannot.
Yeah.
I'm like, after all y'all saw those commercials with the voice box thing, y'all still smoking?
Girl, I think the same thing, especially like, okay, I get the old smokers, like the people who did this before it was widely known as like really harmful. But like new smokers, I'm like, what made y'all decide, hey, I'm going to pick up a cigarette? Like I would be like, because through my whole entire life, I've known that smoking was bad, like, or terrible for you. So I'm really wondering, new smokers, what brought you to the cigarette?
Well, we need to interview someone. I know my husband smoked before he met me. He probably smoked for about, I don't know, 7 years. He started smoking when he was 18 at the bowling alley. And then I don't know, but when he told this little story,
was he in the league?
No, he worked there.
He worked.
That was one of his first jobs, and he smoked probably for like 5. He smoked from the time he was 18 to the time that we became boyfriend and girlfriend. Because I was like, I remember one time we were hanging out, and I was like, I would kiss you, but you're a smoker. And he thought I was kidding, but I was not. And 2 months later, he handled his business, and I handled mine. So there we go. But I just don't get, like, here's the thing. There are smokers in his family never got the lung cancer, smoked until they're 90, but then other ones did. And I'm like, who wants to play Russian roulette with that? Like,
yeah, but it's just like, it stinks. It's expensive.
Expensive.
It's just like, what are the positives? So,
I don't know. Oh, I know what they say. Like, and I think, oh, sorry. I'm taking a walk and a neighborhood dog is just coming up to me being very friendly. And I'm just a little bit, thank you. I'm sorry. I just get scared easy. All right, kickbackers, I got caught. That's right. I'm not sitting down in front of my computer with a mic. I'm getting my steps in. And y'all heard me. See, I kept it calm on the outside, but on the inside, Sharika, because I'm from the hood, my instinct was run. And that's the last thing you should do when you see the dog. It was a big little chocolate dog. Okay, anyway, back to the smoking. I found that people have told me they do it when they're stressed out. I listened to this podcast on one of my favorite TV shows, and the director was saying, like, even to this day, when they want to make somebody look really cool in this scene, even though he knows it's terrible for you, he gets the actors to, like, he puts a smoking scene in. And I'm like, but, so one, we got to get people more coping skills, when it comes to stress. Get yourself a stress ball or something like that. And there are other ways to look cool. Come on. And I think it's up to media and film industry to make these other things look cool. Sure, the cigarette leaning up against the wall, it looks cool because it's been in film how many times? Like, let's give people a bottle of water. That can look cool.
Hydration is cool.
It's very cool. A certain cool bottle of water or, you know, some fruit, something like that. Like, listen, I need to get back in my bag with like the creative directing stuff so I can make these healthy actions look as cool as they are.
So, okay, but so I hear the thing about the stress thing, but I'm like, is it that it helps with stress when you're used to it? Or like, if I'm a stressed person, never smoked a cigarette and I smoke it, will I be calm? Like, or is it because
I have to talk to a smoker because what I've heard is just that like it helps when you're stressed. I've never really dove into the minutia of that, but like I've also heard people who are trying to lose weight. They're like, when I was smoking, I didn't eat as much because evidently it suppresses your appetite.
Ooh,
but I'm like,
now you got me.
But also like the lung cancer, I don't know. I'd rather be chubby with lung cancer. If you ask me, like without lung cancer, without it, not with. So
That's
I'm
true.
like, let's not sacrifice. Like, who cares if you're chubby? Oh my God, I need to go from outside. There's a snake on the ground. Why am I out here? I know. It's black. It's black and red and it has yellow stripes on it. It's slithering. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, kid backers. This is not the time. This is not an adventure. What the heck? Oh my gosh, that was scary.
Oh, wow.
Is there any kind of like thing about if a snake crosses your path, like when a black cat does?
Girl, is
that a thing?
Know. That's one thing I don't know is superstitions. That is one thing
I know that's right, because we just know the Bible. The Bible says, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, you will be saved. That's the only superstition I know, but I did not like that vibe. In the middle of the day, too, I thought they were like little, like, I don't know. Yeah. Okay, well, sorry for all the distractions today. I'm definitely not in my most professional bag. But maybe one day we'll get a smoker on the kickback and ask them to share. No judgment. We just are curious about.
Very intrigued.
Intrigued. And shout out to Taylor Swift. Going back to the Taylor Swift thing. Shout out to her and this movie and how it's being so successful. People can say what they want to about Taylor Swift, but she is a great businesswoman. Like, we've seen child stars, and I'll call her child star. I mean, she started in her teens, come and go. And like, there's something to be said for those who can really keep their sanity, you know, because we see what's Britney Spears over there twirling on Instagram with the eyeliner, the 3-week-old eyeliner on. So I'm like, yeah, it's a really tough road to be a star that early and be able to be an adult and still be successful. Same thing with Beyonce. She started really young too. I think the consistent thing with both of them is they had their parents very much involved. You know, I know Taylor Swift's dad is all up on the business side. Her mom's like everywhere she goes. Beyonce's mom was like doing their clothes and Beyonce's dad was like managing them for so long. So that probably helps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't like comparing the two because I don't think that you can compare the two. I just say they both are doing very well in their own lanes.
Oh yeah. And I'm trying to think of other child stars. I mean, I feel like there's some others that, of course, like now it's escaping. Honestly, let's talk about it. Kylie Jenner. You know, people can say what they want to about the surgery and all that, but like she started really young and she made it to the point where her company was like worth at one point $1 billion. And she's not really out here drugged out, you know, strung out. Like the worst she does is post like scantily clad pictures. But I mean, hey, is that really something that you're going to tear somebody down for when First Lady was doing the same thing?
I'm going with...
Your laugh is so funny, Sharika. And she's a whole mom out here and she's making her... I feel like Kylie just minds her business, makes her money. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to Kylie too.
Yeah, I think motherhood probably really calmed her down. Because I think she took it like very seriously. And it seems like she's very, you know, very, I don't want to say into her kids, but like, you know, very protective of her kids, very much,
a good parent.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly.
Exactly.
So that's
And
another
wanting to
child
be
star.
involved, like wanting to be involved, an involved parent with her kids.
Absolutely. Brandy, she did okay. Now her brother, he's kind of crazy, but Brandy is
Uh-huh.
another star who started really young, did great.
Yep.
I'm trying to like think of some
Tia
others.
and Tamara.
Yes, they're amazing. And they just like stayed grounded in a really
Mhm.
crazy world where you hear about like, oh, when I was on this set, these producers offered me these drugs or I had these opportunities. It's like, who's watching these kids? But some of the kids, thank God, they made it out okay. So,
You know what? That's so interesting that in this on this topic because now I think a lot like you're saying a lot of this does have to do with the parenting and the parents' involvement in their kids' lives and being present because I remember Kev on stage was talking about when his kids were doing entertainment at one point in time and he was talking about his son was on set for whatever reason and they wanted him to do something. And he was a little kid at the time and he didn't want to do it. And so they're like trying to coax him to do the thing. And they were like, okay, what do you want? What do you want? And he was like a puppy. And they're like, oh yeah, we can get you a puppy. And he was like, no, you're not getting him
what?
a puppy. And he was like, he can see how it does these kids can get out of hand because the production company or whoever, they're not invested in your kid being a well grounded human being. They're trying to get a product in and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get what they need out of you. They don't care how it affects you in the long run or how you develop. They just want what they need at that moment. And they're willing to, oh, you want this? You want that? We can give you this. We can give you that. And that's how you get these young people that grow up in the entertainment business to become out of control, entitled, and just, lose it because they, if they're so immersed into this culture that whatever I want, I can get because they want something from me. So they'll give me this, they'll give me that. I can get whatever I want. That does not, result in a very healthy minded human being.
You're right. That is so fair. And I'm glad that he was able to be there and like help put those boundaries in place for his children because everybody needs boundaries. They're actually very healthy. When they don't have them, that's when chaos ensues. So
Yeah,
I was thinking about that with I think it was the Brooke Shields documentary, which I didn't see it, but my mother-in-law was telling me about it because she was a model probably when I was a kid, so not so much somebody that I like would be invested in and like want to see their story. I'm pretty sure it was her, but evidently when she was like a teenager, so between like 14 to 17, she may have been 16, she was in this movie where she had to kiss like an old man and they were pushing her as like this sex symbol. And the movie did well, but like she came back in the documentary and was talking about how like honestly traumatic that was for her. She was like, I didn't want to do that, and how they like you said, Sharika, did what they needed to do so they could get this product out. Yeah, that whole pedophilia vibe that is in Hollywood, not great. And the Catholic Church, I guess. So, Catholics, don't be mad at me. I know it's everywhere. I shouldn't have made that joke. That was in poor taste. But yeah, protect the children. That's the message of the first half of this podcast.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, so I will say that I think those who really do well and who have stayed grounded do have to have that sort of family support or dynamic, strong, grounded, to keep them grounded because it's crazy out there. It really is crazy out there. And and I think it's interesting too, because, like I said on this podcast, the Boy Meets World recap, podcast, and it has three of the cast members that are on the show, and they talk about basically, like when you're a child actor, you are a child, but yet you have a adult job. Like you having a job.
Yeah.
Like so it's a weird place because in one sense you are, young but then you have to go in this place or this job and be a professional, be an adult, but you're not
Right.
really an adult, which is
At
kind
all.
of trippy. but you have to, you have to be on time. You got to get them lines together. It's like, I'm sure grows you up very, very quickly.
Absolutely. And the name of that Brooke Shields documentary is Pretty Baby, and you can see it on Hulu. I think I might dive into that maybe next week. I'm kind of busy this week, but yeah, that's something to consider when you're working with kids and when you see them and the expectations we have on them in the industry, right? Like, they are children and children, their brains are not fully developed. They don't have always like, the most proper emotional regulation skills. They need that freedom to play and be and make mistakes because they are children,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And the scary, I was another podcast I listened to with another child actor, Raven Simone, love her. But she just talks about too, is like when you're a kid actor and then people like see you out in the street. Like imagine being a kid, 5, 3, 4 years old, walking out, and then you see grown people running up to you screaming because they're so excited to see you. And you're like, what is going, like how traumatizing that would be as a kid, or when you're a kid, like, and then you're out and about and people are just running up to you and they know your name, but you don't know who these people are.
Terrifying.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And people, they just get so excited. They're not realizing, oh yeah, this is a child. This is a little kid. So yeah. And then, so people always talk about, well, with that, some of the conversation has been like, would you, like these actors now that they're adults, like, would you let your children be in the entertainment industry? And some of them say yes, and some of them say no, absolutely not. But Sabrina, would you, if your kid had a talent, you're in theater and you're on all the things, would you let your kid pursue, acting or modeling?
At this point in my life, I'd like to say that I'm going to let my kid pursue whatever it is in them that God put, that whatever that talent is, I'm going to help flourish it. I'm going to help water it. I'd hope I'd have the flexibility to be as involved as some of these successful child entertainers that we've seen, because I think that's a huge part, but not just even in entertainment, like in schools, right? We see the kids who thrive are the ones whose parents a lot of times are able to walk alongside them in their schooling, whatever you do. So I absolutely, but I wouldn't, only if they wanted to and they're passionate about it and they have the talent. I'm not going to be chasing some kid around who cries when the director's like, you don't know your line. I'm like, you don't have the tough skin for this. You need to come home. Like, we're not doing that. But like, absolutely, whether that's running around doing soccer, God forbid, softball, because it's like my least favorite thing to watch. But sure, if it's my kid, I'll be there on the weekends, I guess. I think, like, absolutely, if they want to do it, because honestly, Sharika, and we've seen this, you and I have both grown up in a church. The safe places for children are the places where the adults create those safe spaces. So I'm not going to come, even though I just kind of did come down hard on the entertainment industry. We've seen children get misused and abused in so many different spaces that were supposed to be safe. So I'm not going to say, I would never let them model because there are some models who didn't have that experience. You know what I'm saying? So that was a really long way for me to say, yes. Now, Sharika, would you allow your child to be an actor, or pretty much to have a job when they're still a child, basically, is the question I think you're asking.
I don't know, because I think about it's not, I think I would just have to see, what the passion was for them. Do they have the, really the skills and the, ability to do it? And then do we have the capacity to do this as a family? Because it's not, when you have a child actor, it is not just the child who has to be committed to this. It's the whole family, because, somebody has to be there with the child. That means maybe somebody, if your child is doing very well, you may have to give up your job, or you might have to be running around going to auditions and getting your kid there. It's like a whole commitment thing. And so it's like, would it be healthy for us to do that? Because I have heard, like, some families that has driven a wedge between the families, even the spouses, because maybe one spouse is always with the kids on the road. Maybe the other one's back at the house, trying to watch the other kids or and working. That's a lot of strain and stress on a family. So I would have to be like, really feel like this is something that the Lord was like, yes, go for, because it's a lot. And I'm not, or my husband, one of us would have to do it. And, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
You bring up a good point about balance. So I think not just my kid, but like whatever activity, whether that was an activity I was in, my husband, the kid, anything that really disrupted the family balance, it would just have to be done away with, or we have to like readjust it until that person could do it on his own. I mean, I think about myself, there were so many reasons. And ultimately, I know it was the Lord that led me from my former career to where I am now. But that was one of the things. I was like, I can't do this and be a mom, because you're not going to ask me to be away from my kid for 6 weeks in the summer, or whenever you guys call, I just drop my family and come, and every weekend and all these blackout dates throughout the year. And, in my mind, my family is my first ministry.
Yeah.
It's God, my family. Right now, my family is my husband and I. But still, just because I don't have kids doesn't mean, oh, well, my husband, she can just see him whenever. Like, no, I am a wife. I care about this unit, just like we have to spend time. Literally, any relationship you have to cultivate it. And how can I cultivate it when this thing right now is like taking senior in my life, and this person just kind of has to go with the wind of whatever my job's doing? Now, that looks so different for everybody. And I commend those who can have that kind of schedule, because for some people, they can have that kind of schedule and it works. For me, it did not work. Even before I came to my husband, because I was interviewing for my new job the end of the summer that I was in my old job. And when I went to my husband, he was like, oh, good, because I was going to talk to you that we would not have done another summer like that. Now, in my old job's defense, they said like, oh, it's COVID. So, you can't have any overnights. So I was fully expected to have one day off, and it was 2.5 hours away. So 5 hours round trip to see my husband and then be back before night. I did not follow that rule. I just was back by breakfast, whatever. I told them then, anybody's listening can hear it now. Like, I'm not going to not have nights with my husband all summer long. For what? For you people who disrespect me constantly? No. So same thing with my child. Like, it's all fun and dandy, but if it's disrupting that family structure, if because you have this, that means the other children just kind of have to follow you around and the whole family's just no, because then we're going to end up being like The Blind Side. There's going to be resentments,
Britney Spears and what's her name? Britney and
her dad. Oh,
no,
or
the
Jamie,
sister.
her sister.
Remember she wrote that
poor
song?
Little Jamie. She's just trying to live her life. But then I can see how then parents can feel entitled. And honestly, I'm on the side of the talent. Like, if I'm the one working, if you're my manager, then of course you get a slice. But if my child was to do that and earn 30 grand, I don't feel like, well, 15,000 of that is mine because I birthed you. But mommy, you weren't learning those lines and you're not my agent. That's my vibe, but I could see how if a family gives everything for this one kid, then the family might feel entitled to some of those
or
funds.
You had to give up your job so that we could get you to this and we can get you to that. And I basically, foregone my income to be able to help you pursue your dreams.
Exactly. And that point, my vibe is that would be in the contract, because you see things happen 20, 30 years later. And it's like, my parent took advantage of me. No. I left my job so my job could be to like get you where you need to go. And then I would just have that in the contract, travel fees, whatever. I just think having those things in black and white, it just makes it easy for everybody, even for my kid, so yeah, it's a really tough thing. It's an exciting thing when you have that sort of talent in your midst. And then you just pray to God that he will give you the wisdom of how to like cultivate that in a way that's really healthy for them, healthy for your family. I absolutely would not trust my kids with adults I don't know if no one from the family is around. So if it's not me or my husband, it would have to be a grandma. I'm trying to think. I trust my mom and my mother-in-law. I trust my siblings. else outside of that, and my husband's siblings. You know what I'm saying? Like, who nobody's going to love your baby like your baby. And I need people who know what inappropriate grooming looks like. I need people who can say, no, you are not giving like Doug Jr. a puppy just because he asked for it. Like, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah. It's crazy out there. It is crazy out there. And you do have to, that's, on the topic of, that and protecting the family. It's easy. It is a lifelong commitment. And like you were saying, it hopefully, like for us as believers, we believe that our family is a ministry, our first priority. But, that is like your core development is your family. So I was watching this, you guys know I love the KevOnStage and all them. But they, last year had a book, and they had the series that they did online, YouTube, but it's called Marriage Be Hard, which is the same title as their book, and they interviewed couples. And so they were interviewing this one couple, and they were a blended family, as in they had kids before and then they got married. And they were asking them about how do they blend their family? Like, how do they do that? And then the woman, who actually happens to be Sarah Jakes Roberts, which is TD Jakes' daughter, she was saying that she believes every family is a blended family. What do you think about that concept? Which I agree, but I'm not gonna fully dive into what she means by that. But when you hear that every family is a blended family, what do you think that is, or what does that mean to you, Sabrina?
I was really looking forward to you expounding, because I was like, I am so curious what she means by that.
Okay.
To me, it's just in a literal sense, because I grew up in a blended family. I had a phenomenal stepdad, and my siblings, I never call them half, but we do have different fathers. So yeah, but my family's my family. So let me think. It's really hard for me to think about a mom, a dad, and just I can think about my husband's family. How are they blended? Definitely, even though you have the same mom and dad, or even though you're born with the same like social economic status or whatever, or maybe not, because parents change over the years. First child might have a totally different experience from the baby child, the last child that was born, but everybody is so unique. So maybe she means that in the sense of there's a blending of personalities. There's a learning how to love one another and how to be loved. There's learning how to deal with conflict resolution and communication and etc. Is that what she means?
So yes, that okay. is, and that's because you came from your family, Doug came from his family, and you guys got married and built a life together. You guys are bringing your own experiences from the different familiar relationships that you have, and you're marrying, literally and figuratively, you're marrying your lives together. So you're blending lives together. And I thought that was very interesting to be like, yeah, even though like Alan and I are similar in a lot of ways, but we're also very different. Actually, we're probably more different than we are similar, but our values are the same. But even in the sense of that, like Alan's idea of, so Alan thinks like when you have a kid, like if we had a child and our child is of age, whatever age that is, he does not believe in giving his child a cell phone. I don't agree with that, because he was like, I didn't get a cell phone till I was, had a job and was able to pay for my own cell phone. So my kid needs to do the same. And I'm like, yeah, but that was how many years ago? Times are different. I feel like our child should have a cell phone. Now, I don't think a child should have a cell phone very young, but I'm like, if our child is in a place where they're going to be without us, like if, let's say we work away from the home and our kid is going to be going home by themselves, or by, when they're obviously of age, not a little child, but like 12, 13, something like that, I would consider getting my child a phone if they're going to be in places where we will not be. I would be fine with them getting a phone, probably not under the age of 12 to 13, but anything older than that, I would consider getting them a phone and I would be fine with that. I would be also very limited on what that phone could do, but I would not see a problem with that. But from our different experiences, we come into this decision very differently.
Absolutely. So she makes a good point there. There is a blending that has to happen with all families. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it was interesting because Kevin and his wife were talking about how something similar was going on in their family. Like their kid is about to be 16. Well, he's 16 now, but they were talking about when he was going to be 16. In Melissa's family, her dad got them a car, but it was like an old car. It was it was whatever he said, it was whatever year they were born. That's the year the car came out, but they got a car.
Oh, I love that.
In his family, they couldn't afford a car. So he never got a car. And he was like, I would feel jealous of my classmates and stuff who all had cars and had nice cars. So I will get my kid a brand new car. It may not be a fancy new car, but it's going to be a new car because I'm thinking of my younger self and how I wanted a car. And his wife was like, our kid is not getting a brand new car. They're going to get an old little beater. And if they want a fancy new car, they better get a job and earn their new car if they want it, but we're not buying them a new car. And it was just, they didn't realize how they both, and they were like, we've been married for almost 20 years and we've known each other since we were teenagers, but we both had our own mindset on something that we both figured, the other one's going to definitely agree with and go with. And then you realize, oh no, we're on different pages about this thing.
Yeah, it's interesting how parents often, well, not just parents, I think people in general are constantly trying to, I don't want to say resolve, but that's the only word that comes to my mind at this time, resolve the issues from their childhood. So like Kevin's like, I didn't get it, so you will. And some people are like, like that to the extreme, like exactly like that to the extreme, or like Alan's like, well, I didn't have a cell phone, I survived, so you can survive too. Even though the reality is for all of us, we will never be able to replicate or fix the things that happened when it comes to that, because our children are living for the most part 10, 15, 20 years past our childhoods, and we're in different places than our parents. So I can never say to my kids like, oh, guess what? Sometimes I came home and we played a game and played with candlelights because when I was very small, the lights would be out. So now, Dad, don't play that. Like that's crazy. There are other ways that we can build. And I had no regrets in I loved my childhood. I feel like the tenacity that I had, the resilience that I had, the really learning to be content in every situation that I had is because I grew up poor and in the hood. Absolutely. And I just saw my mom had joy in all situations. Didn't even know I was poor until I was much older, but because of that, I'm now not going to turn around and be like, we gotta give these kids some hard times. No, they can learn it in a different way. And if I do that to them, honestly, it feels like borderline abuse. And it feels like I'm not seeing them for who they are and the situation that they are in. And I'm not trusting that these tools can be given to them through different life experiences. That being said, like in the days where not everybody had a cell phone, because I, like Alan, didn't get one until maybe junior, senior year. And that's because my parents kept forgetting me after school. I was that kid who'd still be there like 2 hours after practice sometimes. So embarrassing. But in those days, you had like the phones everywhere that you could put a quarter in.
Yep.
We don't have those anymore. So if your kid doesn't have a phone, then how do you compensate and make sure they can still reach you? Because we had those other ways. I mean, sure, they can use a friend's phone and all that, whatever. I get really torn about that too, just because also the phones have a lot more in them than our phones. Like it costs money. Unlimited text was not a thing when I got a phone. Snapchat, sending pictures. And I would be like mortified for my child to have access to some of the things. Sometimes I run across something on my phone. I'm not even looking for it. Especially on Reddit. I'll be reading like, am I the a-hole for him hilarious or petty revenge? And random like soft porn comes up. It's just not what I'm looking for right now. So I don't want my child to have that open door of opportunities. But the reality is, by the time my child is that age, they will probably be able to have those opportunities in so many more ways than the cell phone. So what I really want is my child to be able to face temptation and get through it. Oh, but it stresses me out. Golly.
And navigate and learn how to navigate that.
Exactly.
These things, because there will be things that our kids encounter that we will not be able to control. We won't be there to help them navigate it, but you've instilled everything they needed within them to make wise and smart decisions.
Exactly. That's the part. And you can only hope and pray. Because trust me, same here. Like, if you don't give your kid the cell phone, their friends will have it enough. And if they want to get into something bad, unfortunately, they will. Like, my mom did not allow me to see the Titanic when it first came out. And oh my gosh, I'm so glad my mom doesn't listen to the podcast. Because I still have the fear of God and the fear of my mother and me at my big age of 35. But my friend Selena, we have to sleep over and we watch such a Titanic. And, my mom had already set that boundary. She was like, you don't need to be watching that movie. They got naked with people in there. And we were just giggling at that scene. I don't even think we finished it. We ended up watching the movie Selena. Mommy, I didn't even finish it because I felt guilty. We ended up watching Selena. And then I ended up crying because Selena was so sad. Spoiler alert, her friend killed her. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
This is even worse than... But girl, when they hit me with that late at night when off the world, that little I'll Be Dreaming song, girl, that was my jam. And but I would always cry every time I heard it because I was like, they killed Selena. And that's why you don't have business watching movies you shouldn't be watching at your friend's house, because then you come home crying. I say all that to say, like, you can try to protect your children all you want to, as you should. At the end of the day, going back to what Sharika and I said, the foundation is that you have the tools and the morals instilled in them so that when they're in those situations, they can get out of it and they understand why they need to get out of it, and they can do that for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I just think about at least you felt guilty, and was like, no.
Definitely did. Girl, as soon as that little chair scene came up, I was like, girl, my mom's gonna whoop me. Let's just turn this. I just felt like, I don't want to say I haven't been a good storyteller, because I remember my dad saying from the time I was very young, why do you have to tell so many stories? And so I'm like, as an adult, I'm like, because I was an actor. Like, what do you mean? Like, I've always... But he meant like lies. Like, I would just come up with these crazy situations, and they could always peg it. Yes. So I'm like, I knew as a kid, I'm not even going to be lying because my parents always know when I'm lying. Even to this day, I'm like, I don't lie to my parents. I just go ahead and start with the truth because they're going to find out anyway. You know what I'm saying? So I knew I couldn't go home and be like, if she asked me about it, which why would she? Because she didn't know that was going to be a vibe. Honestly, I didn't know. I didn't go over there to watch it. The opportunity presented itself. And I'm like, oh yeah, let's get it. Then I was like, girl, turn this off. My mom's going to give me a whooping. But I just knew if she ever asked, she would be able to tell that I saw it. So I was like, nah, dog. Let's not even.
You ain't going to get me. You ain't going to catch me.
I know that's right. Girl, I remember one time I took my mom's engagement ring or some kind of ring. Oh no, it wasn't an engagement ring. It was her class ring to school for show and tell. And she had already told me I couldn't take it. And this is going to sound crazy, but I let a classmate hold it who had bigger fingers than my mom, and they bent it or something somehow. And then when I came home, it fell out on the kitchen floor, and she looked down at it what is this? And girl, I got such a spanking in that kitchen. So yeah, I was always up to something. Always up to something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I probably got away with it.
I was not up to anything. I think I'm more reckless now than I've ever been than I ever was as a child.
But you're an adult and you're married and nobody has to pay for your mistakes but you. Well, maybe Alex.
Well, you're right.
So I say you have the room to be reckless.
Yeah, I was just I would say I was scared but I really wasn't scared. I just didn't have that, I didn't have I don't want to say challenger bone in me at that time. I was pretty compliant. Like I just didn't feel the need to challenge things. But now, shout out to my supervisors, my bosses, or whatever have you, because this ain't the one. They didn't get that. They didn't get that version of me. I am Miss Let's Challenge It All. I'm Miss Let's Question It All now. And so, yeah, they didn't get that version of me that my parents got when I was younger.
I was more like, not so much like challenging, like disrespect. I'm going to yell at my mom or the teachers. Like I was a good student. I got in trouble for talking absolutely all the time. They would be like, Sabrina, we had to move her. She's talking. She's talking. Girl, I have stories to tell. I'm an entertainer. Like, what do you mean? Like, this is excitement right now. But I made good grades and all that. But what I was super curious. And I always have been this person. I have to see for myself. So if they said, don't touch the stove this hot, I'm like, as soon as you turn your back, I'm going to touch the stove. And then when I'm burned, I'm like, oh, it's hot. They like, Sabrina just told me, like, they tell the story of how I got the chicken pox. Like I purposely got it. I remember this. It's crazy. I was in kindergarten. Everybody was getting chicken pox but me. And I felt like this isn't fair. And like this girl in class, they were like, oh, so-and-so has to go home. She has the chicken pox. When she was still like in the room with the teacher's aide, I went in the room and I rubbed my arm on hers. And then I got the chicken pox. I just wanted to know, like, I was just like that. I had to know. I had to be curious. I remember one of the other great whoopings I got. My parents told me, don't climb over the fence and go into the cow pasture. I went, and not only did I go, I took my brother CJ. I was like, let's feed the cows these strawberries. Girl, the whole herd turned around and started chasing us. It was terrifying. But somehow we made it to the gate. We climbed back over, and then what did I get? A whooping, because they told me not to do it, but I just had to. I had to do it. I had to see for myself.
Oh my gosh.
So many stories like that. Like I remember they told me don't stick the bobby pin in the socket, but I had to do it, and I got like electrocuted. I had to go to the hospital. My mom said they just heard something go and my body like hit the other wall. And then like my hand, all the skin was like burnt off.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was just always into stuff like that. Not necessarily like hurting others, but like just trying to figure out the world and my place.
Lord have mercy. My gosh, I was the opposite. You said don't. I'm like, okay, I will not, because I don't. You said no. But oh my gosh, Sabrina, what if you have a child that's you?
That is one of my greatest terrors in life. Not like when I was a teenager, because I never was curious. I saw enough when it came to, and I knew enough in my family history when it came to like drugs, being promiscuous. Like I was never curious about that. It's like, nah, dog, you know, I can see how that's going to go, you know, but I get scared just about like, what did my mom say when I was on the podcast? And I was like, hey mom, that's mean. She was describing me, and I felt like the word had negative connotation, but also a little truth to it. I think she maybe said conniving. That has such a negative connotation, but I know like I was always like 3 steps ahead, right? So even when I walked, my parents never saw my first steps, because as a toddler, I had figured out if I don't walk, they'll just carry me everywhere. And they came to daycare to pick me up, and they were so shocked. They were talking to the daycare teacher. They were like, oh my gosh, Sabrina can walk, because I was running around. And then they said, as soon as
running,
they said I was literally running around, and they were so shocked, and they were so excited. And they said, as soon as I saw them, I sat down where I was. Like I immediately sat, and they were like, oh my gosh, this child, like she has played us. She pretends she doesn't know how to walk, but she can walk because she knows. So like little things like that, I'm just like, oh my gosh, my child is going to be playing chess and I'm going to be playing checkers. So as long as they do it with like innocent stuff like that, I'm fine. But I hope they have Doug's like sweetness, and his like the way he approaches life is just easy. You know, he's chill. He's not getting worked up. Like he's just really like content. And I'm like, that is such a beautiful way to be. I don't want them to be, I've never heard Doug stress about job or person. You know, I want that from the child. That's just not him. He's like, why would I stress about that? That's work. I don't bring that home. And I'm like, I wish I could have been like that. I wish I could have been like that. But yeah. We've talked all about children today, Sharika. What traits do you, okay, so I want my child to have like my fearlessness and I want them to have my sense of justice, Sharika, and I want them to have Doug's like everything else. What in you do you want your child to have? And then what about Alan would you want your child to have?
Oh, I'll start with Alan because for myself, I don't know. From Alan, I want my child to have that self-assurance that I feel like he has. Like, I feel like he's just, I am who I am. You know, I'm not worried about what anybody else is doing because I'm me and I'm doing me. I want them to have, what else? I want my child to have just, I don't know. I love Alan's personality and temperament, but I want them to have my affection for, I just want them to be, you know, lovey and kind. Yeah. I think that'll be a good mix of us both. Yeah. Yeah, Alan's independence and Alan's just, self-assurance is really what I want my kid to have. And the other thing I want my child to have of me, I want them to be aware, like not just self-aware, but aware of others and compassionate to others and mindful of others as well. I think that's what I want my kid to have. I don't know. Yeah.
I love it, Sharika. That's beautiful. Well, and our scripture highlights today, I don't know how funny this is, but we're talking about kids. And I read this recently, so it's relevant. Honestly, I don't think it's funny at all, but let's just talk about it. Why not? 2 Kings chapter 3, verses 26 through 27. So of course, there's a war going on, as there often is, and 3 kings are going against the king of Moab because he was loyal to the king before him, but once his son, not Moab's son, once that king of Israel's son took the throne, he's like, oh, well, I'm going to come back and try the kid. Terrible idea, by the way. So he's losing, and that's the setting. When the king of Moab realized that he was fighting a losing battle, he took 700 swordsmen to hack a corridor past the king of Edom, but they didn't make it. Then he took his son, his firstborn, who would succeed him as king, and sacrificed him on the city wall. That set off furious anger against Israel. Israel pulled back and returned home. Okay, so much to unpack here. Like, I feel like if you're a child in the Old Testament, like maybe the child-parent relationship is not a vibe. Like you live somewhere far from them and you like send them a card, Mother's Day, Father's Day. I'm sure culturally that wasn't a thing back then, but you know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, it just never, even within Israel, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when that one guy was like, the first thing that comes out of my house, I'm going to sacrifice. And it was his daughter. And he went through with it. We talk about Abraham, right? Thank God provided the lamb. But I'm just like, the kids, protect the kids. Because this guy, imagine like being alongside your father in battle and all that. You're like protecting him, fighting with the army. And then they're losing and they're like, okay, well, we're just going to sacrifice you. I cannot even imagine. Like, I, talk about having the fear of my parents and I got spanking and all that. But one thing I have always known is like my parents love me unconditionally and they would never like seriously harm me. All the discipline I got as a child, I will say to this day, I needed it. It helped me to be the person I am today. But a whole sacrifice and then you choose to sacrifice your son and then people are mad at the opposite army. Israel didn't do that. It's a battle. One of us is going to win. Don't be mad at us because your king decided to kill his son. Anyway, it did end the fighting, but I just felt sorry for his son, and his son didn't even get a name. They're like, yeah, the firstborn, he was out. So that's the scripture ... That's not a scripture funny. That's a scripture ...
Dang.
For today. Sharika, do you have anything to express?
Yes. You know what? I just want to have a short message to you guys that I want to express. In light of my birthday, I think I said this at the top of the episode. One thing Sabrina taught me was it's your birthday your way. And maybe it's not your birthday, but I want to express that we all need time to reevaluate ourselves. We all need time to do what works for us, what helps us, what mentally, physically, emotionally. So I want to express that you guys take care of yourselves in whatever way that works for you. It might be you're a fitness person and you like to get out there and take a jog, take a walk, exercise. Do that if it feeds your body and your soul. If you are a reader and you know what, you just need some time to decompress, read a good book, do that. Do what works for you, because you need, this world is busy. There's a lot of demands on your time, but don't forget to take care of yourself. You are important.
I love you, friend. That was definitely a word. Let's go. Do you have anything further to recommend today for the people?
I do. I'm going to recommend the Marriage Be Hard podcast.
Yes.
Y'all know I love to watch a podcast, so they're on YouTube, but they're also on whatever podcast platform. It might be under the Love Hour, but yeah, I'll put a link in the descriptions for you guys. But it's also on YouTube, Mrs. KevOnStage's YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to recommend Pretty Baby, the Brooke Shields documentary, which is on Hulu. I know y'all are like, didn't you say you haven't seen that yet? That's true. But my mother-in-law recommended it to me, and she hasn't given me a bad recommend yet. We usually share books through Kindle. So nice. Yeah, she's a reader and I'm a reader. I'm saying that, and the last time I read a book was probably the end of June, and it was on the Kindle. So yes, Pretty Baby, Hulu, Brooke Shields documentary. And as always, protect the children. Just do what you can to protect the children.
Yes. Your kids, other kids, do what, if you see a kid in need or distress, do what you can to protect the children.
Also, I Googled that snake that I saw. It was an eastern coral snake, and evidently they're highly venomous.
Ooh.
So thank God I was on the podcast, because talking to y'all, I was able to just scoot away. I was like more aware of my surroundings versus if I was just like walking aimlessly or running. Yikes.
I'm glad you're safe. Stay vigilant out there.
I know, that's right, girl. I went right after I saw the snake. I said, walk is over. We're going home. First the dog, then the snake. No.
But look, way to be health conscious and keep that cardiovascular system intact and in order. Because your girl over here has been literally laying on the couch for, I can't even tell you how long. So
we can get our life together, friend.
I know, exactly. But I will say your girl has been losing some pounds. I've been cutting back on the food. I just need to get the exercise up. So I will say that is a good report that I do have.
You got it, friend.
All right, guys. Well, it's been another lovely episode with you all. Shouts out and love to our brother EB. And guys, remember, if life tries to knock you down, make sure you kick back.